At our 20th anniversary dinner, I got up to use the bathroom, and that's when I overheard my wife talking to her brother on the phone. What she said? It knocked the wind out of me. She told him I've already moved most of his inheritance into accounts he can't touch. Once the house sells next month, I'm filing for divorce and taking the kids to California. Here's the kicker, we just renewed our vows that very morning. I walked back to the table like nothing happened, ordered a bottle of champagne, and kept my mouth shut. Fast forward to this morning, she's out front, screaming like a banshee. Right now, I'm holed up in my bedroom with the blinds drawn, typing this out while my soon-to-be ex is throwing a full-blown tantrum on my front lawn. My hands are literally shaking, but I have to get this out of my system before I explode. Just hang in there, this one's gonna be a ride. So yeah, yesterday marked 20 years of marriage. 2 whole decades with this woman. We even had a small vow renewal ceremony that morning in her parents' backyard. It wasn't anything over the top, just close family and a few friends. Delilah wore this simple white dress, not the one from our wedding, but it suited her. She did look beautiful, I'll give her that. She joked just last month that her old dress didn't fit anymore. Our kids, Logan and Hazel, he's 17, she's 12, stood by us looking like they'd rather be anywhere else, but at least they were there. When it was my turn to say the vows, I actually got choked up talking about everything we'd been through, good times and rough patches. Funny how blind you can be, huh? The day started out so normal. I even woke up to Delilah bringing me coffee in bed. That should have tipped me off right there because she never does that. Then we had the ceremony, lunch with her family, and a few hours to kill before dinner at Carmelo's, this overpriced Italian spot downtown she's been dying to try. During those hours, I noticed she was glued to her phone way more than usual. When I asked who she was chatting with, she just gave me this awkward little smile and said, finalizing some surprise plans for later. But the smile didn't reach her eyes. I figured maybe she was lining up something romantic and decided not to push. Now, for some background, my mom passed away 3 months ago after a long fight with cancer. My dad died last year. I'm an only child, so everything they had came to me. That included their home, whatever savings they had left, my dad's old record collection, and all of my mom's jewelry. It wasn't some life-changing fortune, but it was more than enough to give us some financial breathing room. Delilah and I had been talking about using it for Logan and Hazel's college funds and maybe finally updating that outdated kitchen. Dinner started off fine. Delilah was being extra sweet, touching my arm, laughing at everything I said, really laying it on thick. The waiter even brought us a couple glasses of Prosecco on the house to celebrate our anniversary. And I remember sitting there thinking, man, I'm lucky. Even though things had been rocky since Mom passed, I chalked it up to grief. Delilah hadn't been the most present during my mom's final weeks. She always had a reason not to come to the hospice. I figured maybe it was just hard for her to deal with illness. Then halfway through the main course, I excused myself to go to the restroom. The men's room was tucked down this narrow hallway past the kitchen. On my way back, I saw Delilah step into that same hallway, phone pressed to her ear. She had her back to me, talking in that low, sneaky tone people use when they don't want to be overheard. I was about to say her name just to let her know I was there when I heard her mention mine. My gut told me to stop and listen. I know, eavesdropping isn't a great look, but the way she said my name, it chilled me. Graham doesn't suspect a thing, she whispered. I already moved most of his inheritance into separate accounts he can't access. Once the house sells next month, I'm divorcing him and taking the kids to California. It was like the air got sucked out of the hallway. My vision blurred, I honestly thought I might pass out. Then she kept talking. Yes, Zane, I know this has been the plan for a while, but now it's all falling into place. She said I'd been so wrapped up in grieving my mom that I hadn't noticed a thing. That we'd get multiple offers on the house by next week. Our house? The one I didn't even know was on the market. Then she paused and said, the kids will adjust. Logan might resist at first, but I've been hyping up the California school. And Hazel and I? We're so close. Besides, they barely spend time with Graham anyway. He's either working or was off taking care of his mother. Taking care of my dying mother. My wife really saw that as some kind of inconvenience. She kept going. The timing's perfect. The vow renewal this morning was genius. It'll make him look even more clueless when everything comes out. No judge is gonna believe he didn't know about the house being sold after renewing vows. Let that sink in. My own wife stood next to me that morning, saying forever just to make me look like a fool in court. Like some gullible idiot. I must have made a noise because she suddenly whipped around. I ducked back into the hallway like a damn coward, heart pounding so hard it was ringing in my ears. I waited until I heard her heels clicking away, then splashed some cold water on my face and forced myself to go back like nothing had happened. She smiled at me. Like really smiled. Asked if I wanted to split dessert, tiramisu. I don't even remember saying yes. I somehow made it through the rest of that meal. Ordered a bottle of champagne just to have something to focus on. My brain felt like it was lagging, like I couldn't process anything. I just kept staring at her, at this woman I thought I knew for 20 years and wondering who the hell I'd really been married to all this time. Under the table, she kept sneaking peeks at her phone, probably texting Zane updates while I footed the bill for her $40 plate of pasta. On the drive home, she kept reaching for my hand across the console. I let her. What else was I supposed to do? I needed time to think. My mind was spinning. How long had this been in motion? How much of my parents' money had she already stolen? Was she already shopping for houses in California? Was she even happy with me all these years? When we got home, she suddenly got all touchy-feely, trying to initiate anniversary sex. I told her I had a migraine, the first time I'd ever turned her down in our entire marriage. She looked irritated but said she understood. While she was in the bathroom getting ready for bed, I grabbed my phone and checked our joint accounts. They were basically drained. Just enough left to cover the basics, utilities, groceries. Then I opened the safe. It's where I kept the pieces of my mom's jewelry I wasn't ready to look at yet. Gone. My dad's watches I'd been saving to pass down to Logan? Also gone. I waited until she was sound asleep, then crept downstairs and powered up my laptop. That's when I realized just how much she'd been scheming behind my back. There were emails to a real estate agent about listing our house. It had already gone up as a coming soon last week. I found exchanges with a school district in San Diego and a nauseating thread with some guy named Elliot all about starting fresh. It made my stomach churn. I spent the rest of the night making phone calls. First, I rang up my buddy Caleb, who told me I could crash at his place for a few hours while I tried to wrap my head around everything. Then I called my sister Molly. She's a few hours away, but always been my rock. By 6 a.m. I had a locksmith changing every single lock on the house. I'd already packed a go bag with all the essentials, important documents, family keepsakes, and anything else I couldn't afford to lose. Once Delilah woke up and realized I was gone, my phone lit up with call after call from her. I didn't answer a single one. By 9 a.m. I was standing in line at the bank explaining my situation to a manager. Right after that I called Claudia, the lawyer I found through a recommendation. She said she could see me at 10. I swung by the house around 12, knowing Delilah would be out at her usual yoga class. I grabbed a few more things, some clothes, documents for the kids, and then left a short note taped to her vanity mirror. It said, "I heard everything at the restaurant. Lawyer up." Then I walked out of that house like it was on fire. I headed straight to Claudia's office and spilled every single detail. She barely looked up as her fingers flew across the keyboard, taking notes faster than I could speak. Claudia helped me file for emergency orders to freeze what was left of our assets and halt the sale of our home. I was sitting in the parking lot afterward when her first unhinged voicemail came through. She'd gone home, realized she couldn't get in, and read my note. All I could hear on the message was screaming. "You can't do this. You're blowing everything out of proportion. I can explain." "Yeah, sure." I blocked her number right then and drove back to the house. I needed to be there before Logan and Hazel got home from school. They deserved to hear the truth from me, not some twisted fairy tale version their mom might spin. When I pulled up, there she was. Delilah. Slamming her fists on the front door like a maniac. Her face was streaked with mascara, her hair a mess, shouting like she'd lost her damn mind. She hadn't seen me yet. So I just sat there in the car for a moment, staring at this woman, this stranger who was about to rip my entire life apart. She wanted to take my children, my home, and the legacy my parents left behind after a lifetime of hard work. As I typed this out, she's still outside, now slumped on the porch, fake crying into her phone. Probably calling Zane. Or maybe that slimeball Elliot. The neighbors are definitely getting an eyeful today. My phone hasn't stopped buzzing, friends texting me to ask what the hell is going on. About 20 minutes ago, Logan called. Said mom was blowing up his phone, telling him I was having some sort of mental breakdown. She's already trying to flip the script? Classic. But tonight, I'm picking up the kids myself before she gets the chance to fill their heads with lies. I'm gonna lay it all out. The money. Her plan to move to California. Every damn detail. I don't want to be the one to crush their world, but I'll be damned if I let her do it first. She was out there screaming this morning. By tonight, she's going to understand this is just the beginning. Update. First off, holy hell, you guys. I didn't expect my last post to blow up the way it did. My notifications were off the charts. Thank you to everyone who reached out. Some of you called BS, and honestly, I wish you were right. For real. Thanks for the awards, the DMs, and the legal advice. Big shout out to the 3 divorce attorneys who offered their help. I'm sticking with Claudia for now, but I appreciate it more than you know. So, picking up where I left off, I was sitting in my car, watching my wife put on what looked like a one-woman audition for a reality TV meltdown. Across the street, old Mrs. Aldridge, you know, the nosy neighbor who's been side-eyeing our parenting since Logan was in pull-ups, was out watering her yard like it was high noon in July, even though her plants were already soaked. Awesome. Just what I needed. Eventually, I stepped out of the car and boom. Delilah saw me. She froze for a second. Then her whole face shifted, went from red and blotchy to this fake mix of shock and hope. She literally ran toward me with open arms like we were reuniting at an airport or something. I sidestepped her. She stumbled in her overpriced sandals. That's when she flipped the script. Full gaslight mode. According to Delilah, I'd completely misunderstood what she said to Zane. The money transfers? Just smart tax prep. California? Oh, that was part of a surprise vacation she'd been planning. The house? Not for sale, just getting it appraised to refinance. And she said it all with a straight face. Looked me dead in the eye while spewing complete and total BS. 20 years and somehow I never realized I married a world-class liar. I told her I'd seen the emails. Every single one. Including the ones with Elliot. Her whole act collapsed. The fake concern drained from her face like someone pulled the plug. She turned sheet white, looked like she might hit the floor. Then came the waterworks round 2. Not angry tears this time. These were her go-to manipulation tears, the kind she uses when she wants something. She started going on about how lonely she'd felt while I was taking care of my dying mom. How her thing with Elliot was just a stupid mistake. Didn't mean anything. Right? A mistake that somehow involved months of plotting and stealing from the inheritance my parents left me. Sounds like an accident to me. I told her she had half an hour to pack what she needed while I kept an eye on her. Then she had to leave? No debate. That's when she switched tactics again. Now she was the victim. Said I was scaring her. Claimed I was acting like someone she didn't recognize. I actually laughed. Told her she was right. The old me? He probably would have believed her. Tried to work through it and salvage a marriage she'd already burned to the ground. But not this time. When we got inside, she bolted for the closet where we keep all our important documents. Joke was on her, I'd already emptied it out. The look on her face when she realized I beat her to it? Worth every miserable second of this mess. While she was flinging clothes into a suitcase like the house was on fire, I checked my phone. 10 missed calls. All from Zane. Guess Big Brother suddenly cared about his sister's well-being. Claimed he just wanted to understand what was happening. Sure, buddy. I didn't call him back. Instead, I sent a text to Logan, told him to meet me at the Starbucks near school after last period. Did the same for Hazel? Delilah caught me texting and immediately demanded to know if I was contacting the kids. I told her flat out I wasn't gonna let her poison them against me before they heard the truth from their father. That sparked another meltdown, more crying, more wild accusations. When her 40 minutes were up, she refused to leave. Started rambling about her legal rights to the house. That's when I laid down my first big move. Pulled out the paperwork Claudia had prepared, documents proving financial misconduct, unauthorized transfers of inherited property, all stuff that doesn't fall under marital assets in our state. I told her criminal charges might be on the table. That was enough to get her moving. She didn't go quietly, of course, there was drama, but she did leave. Meeting up with the kids afterward? That was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I almost couldn't go through with it when I saw their faces. Logan had that classic teenage armor on, blank, guarded. Hazel, though, she looked like she was gonna cry before I even opened my mouth. I didn't unload everything on them at once, it would have crushed them. I just told them that their mom and I were dealing with some serious issues, mostly around money, and that they'd be staying with me at the house for the time being while we worked things out. Logan didn't buy the sugar-coated version for a second. First thing he asked, deadpan, was, "Are you guys getting divorced?" Smart kid. I told him it was probably heading that way. That was all it took. Hazel burst into tears. Broke me right in half. And then Logan, who normally acts like his little sister has cooties, put his arm around her to comfort her. That nearly wrecked me. And right then, as if it was scripted, Delilah started bombarding their phones with messages. Logan read one of hers out loud. According to Supermom, I'd had a mental breakdown after losing my mom, had stolen money from our accounts, and was spreading lies about her. She told them to come find her at Aunt Molly's place, yeah, the same sister I was with earlier, and warned them not to be alone with me because I was unstable. The sheer audacity. Logan looked thrown off, unsure. Hazel just looked scared. So I did what I had to. I showed them some of the truth. I pulled out a few pieces of evidence, emails about the house listing their mom created behind my back, messages she'd exchanged with a school in San Diego, and screenshots of those sketchy bank transfers. I kept the Elliot stuff out of it. They didn't need that mental image of their mom just yet. The drive back home was dead silent. Nobody said a word. And honestly, I didn't have the right words either. Once we got to the house, they both headed straight to their rooms. I didn't blame them. While they tried to process all of that, I went full detective mode. I pulled up our shared cell phone account and started digging through call logs. In the last 6 months alone, Delilah had made dozens of calls to a number in San Diego. Had to be Elliot. Then I checked our Amazon order history. Found a Kindle purchase, co-parenting after a contentious divorce. She bought it 3 months ago. I swear every click uncovered something worse. I grabbed our old family iPad, which barely gets used anymore, and found out she was still logged into her Gmail. Jackpot. Hundreds of emails I'd never seen. The worst one had a subject line that made my blood run cold: Graham's mom's funeral, survival strategy. It was from her best friend, Brielle. The whole email was like a damn playbook for keeping up appearances until Delilah could make her exit. They were literally planning how she should behave at my mother's funeral. Around 8 p.m., the doorbell rang. And there stood Zane, Delilah's golden boy brother, wearing his usual smug expression. And behind him? A cop. Apparently, I was being accused of kicking Delilah out illegally and holding her essential medical supplies hostage. Total fiction. She's not even on any meds. Thankfully, I saw this stunt coming a mile away. I calmly handed the officer the deed to the house. My name was the only one on it since I inherited it after my parents passed. Then I showed him the paperwork Claudia had filed that morning, documents detailing Delilah's financial misconduct. The officer, to his credit, quickly realized he was being dragged into a family meltdown and told Zane this was a civil issue, not something the police should be involved in. As they were turning to leave, Zane made one last move. He tried to barge past me into the house. I stopped him cold at the door. That's when he said something that made my skin crawl. He muttered, "She knows things about you, things that would make your kids hate you forever." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Why don't you run along and get back to helping your sister rob grieving widowers?" That one hit a nerve. The cop turned back around when he heard it, and Zane suddenly remembered how to keep quiet. Next morning, today, I drove the kids to school myself, then made a beeline for the bank. Turns out Delilah had opened up 3 new accounts I didn't even know existed. Since we're still legally married and live in a community property state, the bank manager reluctantly let me see the activity. And what I saw made my blood boil. Nearly $400,000 had been moved in the last 2 months. Basically all of my inheritance. The good news? She hadn't transferred it outside the bank yet, just shuffled it into her private accounts. I handed over Claudia's court documents, and the bank froze the accounts on the spot pending the emergency hearing scheduled for tomorrow. I was starting to feel like I might actually be gaining ground until lunchtime rolled around. That's when I made the mistake of checking Facebook. In less than a day, Delilah had already spread her version of the story to almost everyone we knew. Friends, family, neighbors, you name it. Her narrative? I had some kind of post-grief breakdown, became financially controlling, and was now holding the kids hostage while making up wild accusations. And the worst part? Some of our so-called friends believed her. People who were smiling and taking pictures with us at our vow renewal 2 days ago were now messaging me with concern. But this is where Delilah seriously misplayed her hand. She figured everyone would side with her because she's always been the outgoing, charming one. What she didn't expect was my sister Molly coming in like a wrecking ball. Molly had been suspicious of Delilah for a while, especially during Mom's decline, and she'd been quietly gathering proof. She dropped receipts in the group chat like bombs, screenshots of Delilah browsing apartments while my mother was on her deathbed, and texts complaining about having to pretend she cared. It was nuclear. By dinnertime, the tide had turned. Even Brielle, Delilah's so-called ride-or-die, sent me a private message apologizing. Claimed she didn't know the full story. Too little, too late, Brielle. While all this chaos was unraveling, I kept checking in on the kids. Logan was pissed off but holding himself together. Hazel? She'd gone completely quiet, which scared me more than the tears. They were still texting with Delilah. I told them they were free to see her if they wanted. I wouldn't stand in their way. But neither of them took me up on it. Logan said something that completely wrecked me, both sad and strong at the same time. "Dad, I love Mom, but I don't like who she is right now." And just when things finally started to calm down, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Elliot. We need to talk about Delilah. That courtroom showdown tomorrow morning?" I'm walking in with 3 folders full of evidence. And the look on Delilah's face when she sees me across from her, backed by facts and not just emotion? That'll be worth every miserable second of our 20-year marriage. But what came after that? Well, that's when things really got wild. Final update. Sorry for going dark, Reddit crew. These past few weeks have been absolute chaos. Finally catching a breath now that the kids are at Molly's for the weekend. I'm sitting here with a mug of coffee in my hand, the mug Hazel made me. It says, "Dad, at least you're not Mom." Turns out the kids inherited a brutal sense of humor I didn't even know they had. So, where were we? Oh right? That Elliot text. Bet you didn't see that one coming. I didn't see that message from Elliot coming. Honestly, I just stared at it for a solid 20 minutes, trying to figure out if it was some kind of prank. A big part of me wanted to reply with a not-so-polite, "Get lost," but curiosity got the better of me. We agreed to meet at this dingy little Denny's off the highway, a place that practically screamed neutral territory. Felt like something out of a spy movie. Low lights, sticky menus, and absolutely zero chance we'd run into anyone we knew. Now, based on Delilah's usual taste in men, I was expecting a smooth, smug, gym rat type, a real polished, pretty boy Chad. But Elliot? He looked more like a math teacher with a midlife crisis. Receding hairline, sagging dad bod, worse than mine even, and a nervous energy that had him fidgeting with his coffee cup like it might jump up and attack him. Then he opened his mouth and what came out stunned me. He started with an apology. Said he had no clue Delilah and I were still together. She told him we'd been separated for over a year, still living under one roof just to keep things normal for the kids while we wrapped up the divorce. According to her, I was emotionally manipulative, had supposedly gambled away our money, and she was just doing what she had to do to protect the little she had left. I almost flipped the damn table. Instead, I pulled out my phone and showed him photos from our vow renewal, taken just 3 days ago. The color drained out of his face so fast, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. Or maybe a toilet flushing perfectly for the first time after a decade of clogs. And the kicker? This guy wasn't some random side fling. Nope. Elliot was Delilah's high school boyfriend, long before I came into the picture. They reconnected a year and a half ago on Facebook after he commented on some old throwback photo she posted. Textbook. Then came the part that really twisted the knife. Delilah had convinced him to give her $50,000, money he'd been saving for his kids' college tuition. She showed him fake bank statements claiming I was hiding money and bleeding her dry. So she wasn't just screwing me over. She was running game on him too. I almost felt bad for the poor guy. Almost. Elliot pulled out his phone and laid it all out, every sob story she'd sent, every fake document, emails about the apartment in San Diego they were planning to start over in together. He even had a recording of their last phone call. After I texted her about the fraud, he got suspicious and started recording. In that call, she slipped up, admitted that this plan had been in motion for over 2 years. 2 whole years. That means she was plotting this before my dad even passed away. By the time we wrapped up that weird breakfast, Elliot agreed to testify if it came to that. We weren't exactly new best friends, but we were both victims of the same professional manipulator. There's something bonding about being played like idiots by the same person. That night, I didn't sleep. Barely even blinked. The emergency court hearing was set for 9 a.m. and Claudia wanted to meet beforehand to go over everything. Breakfast with the kids was quiet. Hazel just stirred her cereal around with her spoon like she was hypnotized. Logan had his headphones on, glued to TikTok, looking like someone who'd already lived 3 lifetimes. Just a normal morning, minus the whole "your mom tried to steal all our money" thing hanging in the air. Dropped them off at school with some awkward hugs and a promise I'd text them updates. The hallway smelled like disinfectant and teen anxiety took me straight back to my own high school days. Some things never change even when the rest of your world implodes. Court was not what you see on TV. It wasn't dramatic. It was beige. Depressingly beige. Chairs you couldn't sit in for more than 10 minutes without your back crying for help and that awful fluorescent lighting that made everyone look half sick. I saw Delilah and Zane right away. She was dressed in some stiff, conservative navy outfit I'd never seen before, probably bought it to sell the devoted mom image. Zane stood next to her looking like a smug finance bro type, probably worth more than my whole truck. But when Elliot walked in behind me and took a seat on our side, you should have seen their faces. Delilah's eyes damn near bulged out of her head. Zane leaned over and started whispering in full panic mode while their high-priced attorney looked more confused by the second. The judge? She was a stern-looking older woman who clearly didn't suffer fools. She had that air about her, like she'd seen every dirty divorce trick in the book twice. Claudia presented everything meticulously. The financial statements, the shady bank transfers, the secret real estate listing, and then Elliot's first-hand account of all the lies. When he told the court how Delilah had claimed we were already separated and how she faked documents to scam money out of him, the judge's face went from neutral to glacial. But the knockout punch? Molly, my sister, MVP of this whole mess, found Delilah's secret TikTok account. Yeah, TikTok. She'd been uploading vague videos for months with captions like, setting yourself free after 20 years and when he thinks you're planning an anniversary but it's really a new beginning. All timestamped, some of them from before my mom even passed away. The judge actually pulled up the TikToks in court. Watching her try to keep a straight face while Delilah visibly shrank in her seat was surreal. Then Delilah tried to speak. Cue the waterworks. She played the wounded bird, said I'd been cold and distant for years, that she felt stuck, that the money was her safety net because she was scared to confront me. She even accused Elliot of making it all up out of spite. The judge cut her off mid-sob. She held up the signed listing agreement for the house and asked if that was Delilah's signature. Delilah didn't even try to deny it, it was clearly hers. When the dust settled, the judge ruled in my favor. Emergency petition approved. All assets frozen until the full divorce hearing. I was granted temporary full custody of the kids. Delilah got supervised visits until further notice. Most importantly, the judge officially recognized my inheritance as separate property. Delilah had no legal right to touch it. And she even noted that criminal charges might be warranted based on the financial fraud, though that would be up to the DA's office. Watching Delilah's entire scheme crash and burn right there in that soul-sucking beige courtroom was weirdly satisfying. And sad. 20 years of marriage ended with her sobbing while a bored court reporter typed it all out. The fallout was just as messy as you'd expect. In the hallway after court, Zane went off on her. Apparently, he didn't know how deep her lies ran. He thought I was the villain until he heard everything. He called her a disgrace to the family and stormed off. Haven't heard a peep from him since. Later that night, I had to sit the kids down. We ate pizza at the wobbly kitchen table I still haven't fixed. No fancy speeches, no blaming, I just told them the truth. Simple, straight, and clean. Their mom made some decisions that hurt our family. And we were going to get through it. I told the kids they'd have to come to their own conclusions about what their mom had done. I wasn't going to tell them how to feel, just give them the truth and let them sit with it. Logan asked a bunch of practical stuff, where we'd live, how school would work, what came next. Hazel, though, she just looked up at me and asked if their mom still loved them. That question hit me like a good punch. The weeks that followed felt like a whirlwind. Between constant meetings with Claudia, more court hearings, and trying to keep some sense of routine for the kids, everything blurred together. Delilah moved in with Brielle, who, despite texting me an apology, clearly decided that friendship meant more than integrity. So much for that. Delilah's visits with the kids started soon after. They were supervised, and Molly kindly offered up her house as neutral ground. Bless her for that. The first few visits were painfully awkward. Delilah would show up with over-the-top gifts, like she was trying to buy forgiveness wrapped in shiny paper. Logan usually handed them back without a word. Hazel kept them, but I could tell she didn't know what to make of any of it. The woman assigned to supervise the visits was the sweet, older lady who knitted quietly in the corner and wrote everything down in a little notebook. I liked her. The financial mess took longer to clean up. Through court orders, I was able to recover $420,000 of my inheritance. The house remained in my name since it had always been classified as inherited property. But my mom's jewelry? My dad's watches? Gone. Delilah claimed she sold them long before the fallout. That cut deeper than any dollar amount ever could. Socially, things got weird. Some people ghosted, vanished from both our lives, probably not wanting to choose sides. Others picked theirs clearly, Team Delilah or Team Graham. Caleb and his wife stepped up in a big way. They started inviting us over for family dinners when I was too wiped out to cook. And surprisingly, some of Logan's friends' parents made sure Hazel didn't feel left out, inviting her along on mall trips and little outings. It's funny how people show up when you least expect them. Work became another juggling act, especially with all the court chaos and emotional upheaval. But my boss? Turned out he'd been through something similar with his ex, less money involved, but still ugly. He let me shift my hours around for a while, which made all the difference in adjusting to life as a single dad. A couple months after everything imploded, Facebook's algorithm caught on to my newly single status. Suddenly, my feed was full of online dating profiles popping up as suggested friends. I wasn't even close to ready for that circus. Might not be for a long while. The kids slowly started adjusting. Logan's grades took a dip early on, but he bounced back once we fell into a routine. These days, he spends a lot of time out in the garage using my dad's old tools, building these intricate wooden boxes. I think it's how he processes things. Quietly. Through sawdust and solitude. Hazel went through a stretch where she called Delilah every night, crying. Then came the silence, weeks without a word. Now, they're finding some kind of middle ground, I guess. A new, Messier version of mother-daughter. As for Delilah, California's off the table for now. The court ordered her to stay within 40 miles until custody's finalized. Elliot? He dropped off the map right after the hearing. Haven't heard of Pete? Last I knew, she was working part-time at some boutique downtown. I ran into her once at the grocery store. Most awkward 7 minutes of my life, standing in the cereal aisle while she tried to force small talk and strangers peeked over their carts. It's been 6 months since all hell broke loose. The divorce became official just last week. Way quicker than I expected, honestly. The judge gave me primary custody. Delilah gets every other weekend and dinner on Wednesdays. She kept her car, her clothes, and whatever personal belongings she had at Brielle's. I walked away with the house, what was left of our savings, and the inheritance she couldn't touch. She's also required to pay child support now. It's surreal considering she used to handle all the budgeting. The irony isn't lost on me. Even with the kids here, the house feels a little emptier without her. Some mornings I wake up and for a fleeting second I forget everything that happened. Then reality hits like a truck and I start another day trying to rebuild. Last night, Hazel was digging through my desk looking for school supplies and stumbled across an old anniversary card from Delilah. It was full of those forever promises talking about growing old together and still holding hands at 80. She asked me if I missed that future. Hardest question I've had to answer in a while. I told her the truth, I don't miss a future that was never real. The version of Delilah who wrote that card? That person never truly existed. And yeah, I'm grieving that illusion, but not the woman who sat across from me at our anniversary dinner smiling while knowing she was about to rip everything out from under me. So now? I'm taking it day by day. Figuring out this new life. Still messy. Still chaotic. The bathroom sink's leaking again. Logan needs another pair of cleats, he's outgrown the last ones in like 3 months flat. Hazel's tangled up in some friendship drama I only halfway understand. But it's honest now. At least that much is true. And that secret TikTok account of Delilah's? Still active. Her latest series is all about healing from narcissistic abuse and reclaiming your power after divorce. The comments are full of strangers cheering her on. People who have no idea what actually went down. I could go on there and spill the truth. But what's the point? Some people will always rewrite history to protect their own image. Me? I'm just focused on writing something better. A future that's real for the 3 of us still standing.